Paper Love by Mark Loomer. Act 1. A lonely girl. The girl sits at her desk, completely absorbed by her sketchbook. She's been at it all day, the hours slipping by unnoticed. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, all skipped. She can't remember the last time she left her room. Her art has become her only solace in an otherwise lonely existence, a way to fill the emptiness that constantly gnaws at her. People weren't always absent from her life, though. She used to let them in, friends, fleeting romances, but they only distracted her from her work. They came in, pulling her away from her drawings, and when they left, all that remained was their absence and the blank pages that should have been filled, mocking her for the time she wasted, time she could never get back. Over time, she's become too scared to let anyone else steal her focus and emotions, and she's isolated herself. Her sketches are known around the world. Every post she shares online generates thousands of comments and millions of views. Lucrative commissions pour in from companies and private collectors alike, but the attention feels hollow, failing to fill the void inside her. As the evening approaches, she hears someone laughing. She glances out the window and sees a couple walking by, hand in hand. Her heart tightens. They remind her of something she's missing, something real and tangible that her art can't give her. Trying to soothe the ache, she returns to her sketchbook. She draws the image of a cute boy, pauses, then draws herself sitting with him at a romantic cafe, imagining the warmth of a moment they'll never share. For a moment, her heart lightens, but as fatigue sets in, she has to lay down her pencil, and the familiar emptiness returns, heavier than before. She closes the sketchbook and climbs into bed, curling into a ball with her knees drawn to her chest, hoping for some kind of escape in sleep. The girl's bookshelf is crowded with the books she treasured as a child, their worn covers holding memories of happier days. Among them is the one that always meant the most to her, the one that sparked her dream of becoming an artist. As she sleeps, a fairy slips out from its pages. The fairy hovers, watching the girl. She shakes her head. She was such a cheerful kid. How has she grown to be such deeply unhappy young woman? Feeling partly responsible for her solitude, she decides to do something about it. The fairy breathes life into the sketched boy, giving him form and purpose. As he wakes, she tasks him with a mission to ease the girl's loneliness and bring love into her world. The boy, now named Paper Love, catches a glimpse of the girl's delicate face through the fluttering sheets. He smiles and accepts the challenge without hesitation. But before she departs, the fairy offers a solemn warning. Don't be too cocky, she tells him. You may find out that her love may demand of you far more sacrifices than you are ready for. The next morning, the girl wakes up to find Paper Love alive, sitting at the edge of her bed. Her creation has come to life. Their connection is immediate. Soon they're like two peas in a pod, spending every moment together, building a world of their own. They make private jokes, share stories, and laugh until their sides hurt. When she works, he sits beside her quietly, content to just watch as she loses herself in her drawings. Do you want to have more fun than you've ever had with your sketchbook? He asks. Without waiting for a reply, he grabs her hand and dives inside. Soon, the girl and Paper Love are journeying through the pages of her sketchbook. Instinctively, she begins to draw, astonished as her sketches transform into vibrant, magical landscapes and fantastical worlds. They soar over penciled mountains, swim through watercolored enchanted seas, and lose themselves in thrilling storyboard adventures. In this fantasy world, the girl feels understood and alive in a way she has never experienced before. As time passes, she becomes more and more absorbed in her sketched adventures with Paper Love. Meals are skipped, and she ignores texts from friends and family. One evening, As the girl gulps down a ready-made soup before diving back into her sketchbook, she gazes out the window and sees the familiar couple, the boy and girl she had watched before, walking hand in hand. She is intrigued when they stop directly under her window. Her eyes widen as she watches them exchange a soft, tender kiss beneath the glow of the streetlight. For a moment, her chest tightens, a flicker of what before would have felt like longing. Her gaze shifts to Paper Love and she smiles. This time, things are different. Instead of the sharp ache she used to feel, warmth spreads through with a quiet acceptance. She knows she'll never share that kind of kiss with Paper Love, but it doesn't hurt anymore. It's enough that they have their own kind of love, even if it only exists in their world. As they resume their adventures, she no longer limits herself to drawing landscapes. She starts adding creatures to her world. Paper Love also tries to create his own characters, but he doesn't know how to draw. She giggles as his crude creations, monsters and ghouls, sometimes turn on them. Though a bit embarrassed, Paper Love tries not to let her teasing bother him. During a battle against demonic ghouls threatening an army of knights she's drawn, she suddenly runs out of pencils. Unable to summon more reinforcements, as the knights retreat and the ghouls close in, they are forced to step out of the sketchbook. Glancing at the clock, she's shocked at how much time has passed. With food running low and her art supplies dwindling, she has no choice but to finally leave her room. At Aziz's convenience store, she grabs ready-made soups, pencils, and erasers. On her way out, someone tugs at her sleeve. It's Adam, a boy she briefly dated in art school. He tries to strike a conversation, but she frees her sleeve, annoyed and eager to get back to Paper Love. Back home, Paper Love, anxious, is pacing around the room. The girl hasn't returned yet. The fairy hovers, trying to calm him. When the girl finally arrives, the fairy disappears quickly before the girl can see her. The girl drops the grocery bag and rushes to her desk. Paper Love, now brimming with energy, greets her. "Miss me?" he asks, soft and playful. "More than you know," she replies, already reaching for her pencils, ready to dive back into their shared world. The girl and Paper Love lose themselves in their magical sketchbook world, the line between reality and fantasy fading. The ghouls defeated, they surf on waves she sketches, climb mountains she draws, and embark on new adventures with each page. With a turn of a page, they find themselves back in the magical cafe where they first met. It is overlooking an enchanting cityscape. Strange musicians play instruments of her design, their music creating visual notes that dance across the air. The world beneath them is surreal, with twisting buildings and endless terraces of greenery, waterfalls, and towering ancient trees. They bend and curve with the whims of her pencil. As they sit together, Paper Love marvels at the beauty she has created. His admiration for her work adds to a paroxysm in her feelings. In a surge of emotion, the girl suddenly blurts out, "I love you. I love you." Paper Love responds, and the next moment they are sharing a kiss. She closes her eyes. When she opens them, everything is perfect. Paper Love is there, smiling softly, his hands still in hers, but her happiness quickly fades and turns into shock when she notices a small tear at the corner of his mouth, where her lips had pressed against his fragile paper skin. Panic grips her as the tear begins to spread, slowly splitting his delicate face. His watercolor hues smudge under her fingers, and his features blur. His once graceful folds start to crinkle, as though the weight of her love was too much for his fragile form. Desperate to save him, she tries to hold him, but every touch only worsens the damage. His hand bends, his hair fades, and the soft rustling of paper signals his gradual undoing. Terrified, she scoops him up and rushes out of their sketchbook world, back in her room. She frantically tries to repair him with tape, but it only makes things worse, leaving jagged edges and glossy patches that don't blend with his texture. The damage continues to spread, and her helplessness grows. Just when she's about to lose hope, the fairy appears, revealing that she had brought Paper Love to life with her magic. The fairy heals Paper Love, but warns the girl that her love, while passionate, can also create irreparable damages. The fairy instructs the girl to tend to Paper Love, carefully applying watercolors to him daily to help him heal. Overwhelmed with relief and gratitude, the girl thanks her. As the fairy fades back into the enchanted book, the girl begins to care for Paper Love. As his paper body begins to mend, she smiles softly. They resume their adventures, but she slowly realizes that they have become a bit less exciting. The magical world she once created now tinged with hesitation. Every time the girl picks up her pencil, she glances at Paper Love with anxiety and stops herself from drawing something too daring. What if he gets torn or smudged again? The thrilling escapades now give way to careful, mundane moments, walking on safe, flat paths, drawing soft breezes instead of wild winds. Their time in the sketchbook world dwindles, replaced by long stretches of silence in her room, where neither of them knows quite what to say. The girl tries to fight the feeling motivated by guilt and the need to stave off the emptiness creeping back into her life. The girl catches herself scrolling through old texts of people she had shut out of her life a long time ago. One night, while the girl sleeps, exhausted from the growing emotional distance between them, the fairy reappears. She reminds Paper Love of his mission and of the warning she gave him about the challenges ahead. She tells him that despite his efforts, things have changed, and now that the girl has glimpsed the limitations of their love, there's probably no going back. He must accept that reality. Paper Love brushes off her words, resisting the notion that he's losing the girl. He insists he can still fix things, but the fairy explains that true love isn't about keeping someone captive, even emotionally. His mission was to bring love into the girl's life, not to bind her to him. If he truly wants to become a real boy, he must succeed in his task by helping her find a new love, a real one. Desperate to become a real boy, Paper Love nods, pretending to accept the fairy's new mission. Deep down, however, he knows he cannot let go. In his mind, if he becomes real, he might still win the girl's love back. So while pretending to follow the fairy's instructions, Paper Love secretly schemes to maintain his grip on her, ensuring she'll never find the real love she now needs. As he often sees her watching the couple outside her window, his anxiety to lose her to the real world keeps growing, a world he cannot enter unless he becomes human. Determined to stop this, he devises a plan to make the fairy believe he is complying, while secretly aiming to remind the girl of the pain that the real world holds. Paper Love encourages the girl to try dating, but she protests at first, refusing to betray him. He gently reminds her that they've both seen how their love is impossible now. Maybe, he says, things would be different if he were a real boy. With a heavy heart, the girl agrees to try, hoping it might help heal the growing malaise between them. Maybe they can be friends now. Paper Love offers to assist with every detail, helping her swipe through profiles, pick outfits, and even suggesting locations for the dates. But each choice he makes is a subtle trap designed to sabotage any chance of success. One such date is set at a popular burger joint with a boy who is a fanatical vegetarian. The date turns into a disaster, with strained conversation and uncomfortable silences. The girl leaves feeling defeated, with Paper Love reassuring her that she still has him. After a series of equally disastrous dates, she agrees that all the boys out there are losers, and no one understands her like he does. But deep down, something inside the girl still yearns for more, for something real. One day, while sketching, she absent-mindedly draws the face of Adam. As her pencil moves, a memory surfaces, Adam's face, excited as he rings the bell to pick her up for a concert. He waits, but she doesn't come to the door. Eventually, Adam lets himself in, finding her still at her desk, lost in her drawing, oblivious to his presence. His excitement fades as he watches her, his heart sinking. After a long pause, she finally notices him. We're late. The concert starts in half an hour. Without looking up from her work, she softly responds, I'm in a groove. I'm sorry. I don't want to go. Disappointed, Adam says nothing, turning quietly to leave. He sets 2 concert tickets on her desk before heading out the door. While the girl steps away from her table, Paper Love stares at the drawing. His jealousy gets the better of him, and in a burst of frustration, he topples over a bottle of China ink, spilling it all over the sketch. When the girl returns and sees the ruined drawing, her eyes widen in shock. She looks at Paper Love, who hurriedly fakes an apology, claiming it was an accident. The girl stares at him, unsure whether to believe his excuse. There's a hesitation in her voice as she asks, but deep down, a seed of doubt that was already there begins to sprout. The fairy reappears, angry. She's no longer fooled by his attempts to manipulate the girl and admonishes him for sabotaging her chances of finding real love. Paper Love tries to deny it, but the fairy insists that his possessiveness is holding both of them back. If he truly wants to become a real boy, and maybe even find a love of his own, he must let go. The time for keeping her bound to him has passed. While the girl is in the shower, the phone vibrates. It's a text from Adam. "It was good to see you the other day. I really want to hang out one of these days." Paper Love's body stiffens. Without thinking, he reaches for the phone with his delicate hand, carefully. He types, "I'm too busy. Leave me alone." He puts the phone back in its place, his paper fingers trembling slightly, guilt prickling the edges of his form. Shortly after, the girl feels restless. The room feels smaller, suffocating. She puts down her pencils, glances at Paper Love, and without a word, steps out. She needs to breathe, to clear her head. Outside, the cool air feels refreshing. She walks aimlessly, not sure where she's going, until she suddenly bumps into Adam on the street. The girl greets Adam with an enthusiastic hug, catching him off guard. He's surprised. He thought she didn't want to talk to him. There's a note of curiosity in his voice as he brings up the message she supposedly sent. Confused, the girl frowns and asks what he means. Adam pulls out his phone and shows her the text, "I'm too busy. Leave me alone." Her heart sinks as she stares at the message, a sick feeling settling in her stomach. She tells Adam she never sent it. In an instant, her thoughts race back to her room, piecing together the truth. Paper Love had responded for her and erased the other messages. She apologizes to Adam, though he looks even more confused, and without explaining, she asks him to follow her home. Adam's initial surprise turns into a creeping sense of dread the moment they step into the room. There, standing unnaturally still in the dim light, is Paper Love, a figure made entirely of paper, its joints creaking like brittle parchment as it moves. Paper Love's eyes, drawn in jagged strokes of ink, lock onto Adam with a cold, menacing intensity. His stare is hollow, yet filled with a deep, seething jealousy. The air grows thick with tension as his voice, sounding like the rustling of dead leaves, warns Adam. "Get out! You can't offer her what I can," he hisses, his paper edges fraying slightly as his voice tightens. "What we have is deeper, more." Adam, already unnerved, feels the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He can't quite comprehend what he's seeing, but the malevolent energy radiating from Paper Love is unmistakable. Before Adam can react, Paper Love extends an invitation, his voice now eerie and beckoning, urging Adam to step into the sketchbook world. The girl shouts a warning, her voice trembling with fear, but it's too late. Adam, hypnotized and drawn in by morbid curiosity, takes the plunge, leaping into the sketchbook. Paper Love watches, a crooked grin spreading across his face as the girl follows, her heart racing, knowing they've crossed into a realm now ruled by Paper Love's darkest impulses. As they land inside the sketchbook's once enchanted pages, the atmosphere is oppressive. The colors of the world are vivid, but there's something off about them, like a beautiful painting that's been smeared with dark shadows. Paper Love begins showcasing the twisted landscape, a grotesque parody of the imaginative world they once built together. Vast, sprawling cities loom in the distance, but closer, there are haunting, empty buildings, with windows that seem to watch them like eyes. "Look at what we created," Paper Love whispers, his voice cutting through the stillness like a blade. "Can you ever hope to make something this meaningful?" Adam is speechless, his body tense as he looks at the world around him. Beautiful, yes, but wrong. It feels alive, as if the pages themselves are breathing, watching his every move. The girl tries to speak, her voice soft but firm. "No one else could share the bond we've had in here, but I need something real now. I need love that exists outside these pages." Paper Love's paper face twists, his features contorting as if being torn apart from the inside. His voice lowers to a dangerous hiss. "Stay with me. Here, everything is perfect. Here we belong." The girl shakes her head, stepping back. Suddenly, the fairy appears, her wings shimmering as she admonishes Paper Love. "Leave them alone," she commands, her voice steady. The tension reaches a boiling point, and Paper Love snaps. He angrily draws a cage around the fairy, telling her to make him a real boy so the girl can love him again. "I can't do that if you don't accomplish your mission," she retorts, her voice filled with desperation. The lines of the cage are jagged, angry, and crude, nothing like the careful, intricate sketches she's used to. The cage clinks shut with an eerie echo as Paper Love's hands tremble with fury. Suddenly, the world starts to shake. Paper Love begins sketching frantically, his hands a blur. Ghouls and monsters from their earlier days together crawl out of the pages, creatures they had once drawn for fun, now twisted and nightmarish under Paper Love's control. They slither out from the dark corners of the world, their eyes glowing with malice. Adam and the girl barely have time to react as the creatures close in. They dodge through the streets, narrowly escaping the long, inky fingers reaching out to grab them. The monsters' grotesque faces snarl as they crawl through the windows of the once beautiful city, their twisted bodies looming over the landscape like shadows of forgotten nightmares. Desperate to protect Adam, the girl fights back, using what little she remembers of their shared sketches. The situation is desperate as the chase escalates. In a quick flashback, we see the girl looking at the tickets after Adam left and breaking down. Back to their desperate situation, she confesses, "I always liked you, even more now that you're sticking with me in this." The fairy hears her words and realizes that Paper Love has unwittingly accomplished his mission despite himself. With a flourish, she twirls her wand. Slowly, Paper Love begins to turn into a real boy. The chaotic energy swirls around them, and they all end up on the floor of the apartment, breathless. Adam and the girl exchange a kiss, sealing their newfound bond. Paper Love, now a real boy, sits on the floor, his fury gone, replaced by shame and resignation. He realizes he has lost all power over the girl and Adam now living together. They spend their days sketching, drawing, and sharing their creative passion. In one scene, they close their sketchbooks after a long day of work, smiling at each other before heading out to meet friends for a concert. Meanwhile, Paper Love, now fully human, sits in a therapist's office. He talks about his jealousy and possessiveness, admitting how he's working on letting go and finding a healthier version of himself. The session ends, and a young woman waits for him in the hallway, smiling warmly and telling him she's proud of his progress. As they walk down the street together, a boy passing by glances at the woman. Paper Love's hand slowly curls into a fist, his knuckles whitening. A faint line appears on his cheek, a subtle sketchbook mark barely visible.